Welcome to the Accounting Profits and Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Louie Prosperi. Today we have a fantastic guest. She is a recognized business advisor, forensic accountant, recognized thought leader in our industry, author, and the designated motivator for the accounting industry. Please welcome Dawn Brolin. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Louie, thanks so much for having me. Anytime I can hang out with you is a good day for me.
And it's a great day for me when you're around, to be quite honest.
Oh, that's kind.
All the years that I've known you, every time I've met you, whether it's at a conference, whether you were on stage, it's you light up the room, and your enthusiasm and also your positive attitude is infectious. So I am really looking forward to this interview, even though we have some serious things we're going to talk about. Not really, but people might think they're serious. So
We're going to get in it.
Let us begin with number one is the designated motivator. What makes you so perfect for that role?
I don't know. I've kind of always had an optimistic outlook with anything that I do or anybody that I see, that I always see the positive in people. I want to always think the best of people. Sometimes gets me in trouble, but I do try to always make somebody's day better. Do I always do it perfectly every time? Absolutely not, because there's no such thing, right? So for me, it's if I can just take a moment with someone and encourage them or help their day get better, then I have a purpose. And that's the way I look at it.
Well, what I really loved about one of the comments is kindness is your kryptonite comment. And that part wasn't the key part. The part that it doesn't cost you anything to be kind. And yet the feedback and I got to be honest with you, when you treat your customers with kindness, let's be realistic, the bill doesn't become that important to them anymore.
No.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So explain more about kindness, because I think we don't do enough of that in our profession. We're so worried about the numbers. We don't really focus on being kind, if you know what I mean.
I 100% know what you mean. And I'm somebody who participates in social media more of an observer than I am a participant in a lot of the groups that I'm in. But I'm always in there hoping that if I do make a comment, that it's going to improve whatever situation. And we see a lot of professionals these days, I'm going to say suffering, for lack of a better description. Like they're out there suffering, or you've got clients who are suffering and there's things that are happening. And we sometimes take our job so seriously, and we have to take it seriously, but sometimes we need to step back and go, you know what? This client called me and they're freaking out over X, Y, and Z. And that doesn't feel good for the professional. It never would feel good.
Right.
But sometimes it really doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't have to do with maybe you made an error on a tax return, or you didn't get some books reconciled by a certain date. Like that stuff is going to happen. But we know that interaction with people, if we can step back and be a little bit less reactive to that, but also realize that we can care about our clients, we can be kind to our clients, they're going to remember that. They're going to remember when it gets tough that you are the person who's, and a lot, I've had it happen where I'm so sorry I flipped out on you, whatever. I'm like, dude, I want to just make sure you're okay. I've had that. I've had people email me and I'm like, whoa, something's up with this person. So I would just pick up the phone. Hey, listen, I understand you're upset about X, Y, and Z, but is there something else I'm missing? Like, are you okay? And so our profession is so the stereotype, that stereotype of we're just rigid suits and ties and all this stuff. And really we're people just like anyone else.
The bow tie isn't helping much right now, to be quite honest. But
no, the bow tie is adorable. Your bow tie is adorable. Let's be honest about that. But it's true. We get into this zone of, and I think it is bigger than the profession. I think it's just society right now. We gotta get it together here, because people are not being kind to each other. Mental health awareness, which I'm an 80s girl. I don't remember having mental health awareness stuff. We were just go outside and drink out of the water hose and come back when it's dark. And
yeah, I can relate to that.
Right. And so I think that I now have realized that mental health awareness is more important than anything that we could possibly do for our clients and for our fellow colleagues, is to be more kind, to stop and be selfless, which is hard for some people to be selfless, and start thinking of others.
So that's an interesting one, because people think that they are. And the way I've defined it is kindness or selfless if I can pronounce it right, selflessness or whatever, however pronounce it,
Yep.
is doing a kindness but not expecting anything back. It's not like I have stuff on my jar that I can trade in later. If you
Right.
do it that way, I think people know that, right? So you have to be. Tell me if I'm wrong, but the key thing when you're kind is don't expect anything back or say, "Well, I've got all these chips in the game because I've been kind to you for the last 6 months or whatever."
Right.
I think that defeats the purpose. Is that correct? Is that what you're
Oh,
really talking about?
it's 100% correct. I tell my daughter this, as much as I can tell her, Emily, you never give to get, you give to give. You have to, if
Right.
somebody says to you, I had somebody ask me, Brolin, I need a couple $100 because of X, Y, and Z and this and that. And Venmoed her immediately. And I said, I don't need the money back. I can't, if I expect it back, I should never give it. And when
Right.
you give freely of your, regardless of money, but of your time and of your soul, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
care and genuinely care, and you're giving to give. And like you said, not putting a bucket of, I got to cash these in today. It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's being genuinely kind. And that's something we've got to roll forward that in our society today more than ever before.
And I couldn't agree with you more because that's the kindness that I always try to process is that if I do something kind and put it in a backward burst that I'm supposed to get something back, it's not really good because then you get bitter over time because
Right.
I've been so kind to all these people, I got nothing back. That's not the approach, right? So I really love that approach. And by the way, I've seen you do it many times
Oh,
in
thank you.
person. So you
Appreciate
do
that.
preach what you say, 100%. I'm gonna change gears a little bit because one of the things, and I'm not sure how this works, but AI,
Mhm.
right? How is AI impacting being the motivator? Or how's AI impacting our industry with regards to our communication? Have you seen it get more involved, or is it not there yet? What are you thinking?
Oh, it's there. It's 100% there. I use it regularly. I know ChatGPT isn't the only thing, but from a communication perspective, Louie, I love that you brought that up because I know that when I'm maybe responding to an email, this is where it can be really
Right,
helpful, where somebody's just rifled off at me on an email. And, a lot of times you just click and you're replying and you're like, well, you did this and that, whatever,
right,
get
right,
into this like email fight or whatever, which is quite cowardly in my opinion. But, I'll type up an email and be like, dump it into ChatGPT. Make this sound more kind. I'm a
right,
numbers girl. I'm great at numbers. The words not so much. So I rely on AI to help me keep my kindness as I'm making those responses. Or in some cases, I've used it in IRS representation work when we have an auditor who's hammering away at meals expenses and where's the receipts and where's the calendar with the meeting for these meals and all this
right,
stuff, and helping devise an email that, or a letter, a response letter that makes sense. And when you get a no change on the meals after you've used AI to help you respond to a IRS notice, you'll love it a lot more too. So,
right.
I've been using that probably over the last 9 months or so, 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I'm using it now for the same thing for tone, right?
Tone.
Tone, tone is hard to relay, and and even though you think when you're saying it in your head, and then when it comes out, sometimes the tone isn't there.
Yep.
And you're right. We're not writers. We don't. We're more factual writers, and it could come
Mhm.
off incorrectly. So I agree with you when it comes to that. What about on the with regards to sensitive information and that? Are you because you're using it specifically for communication and rewriting? Are you using it at all for analysis purposes or anything like that? Or because I'm a little nervous about where that information is going at the present time, and I'm just wondering what your take is on that.
Yeah, I will not put anything. I won't even put the client's name in there. So I won't
Right,
say dear Steven or whatever in
right,
that I'm responding to the email, but I'm just going to take the content of it, but none of the content that goes into Chat GPT for me is going to be any personal identifiable information, or not even that it's well, it'll know it's a client because I say I'm responding
sure,
to a client's email. But they
right,
don't know who the client is or what the context is of that relationship. But it definitely helps you make sure you're checking yourself before you're responding, especially if you get fired up, right? You want to just be like, whoa, slow down, shooter. Let's
yeah,
let's get this in and let's make sure we send this right, or, sleep on it for a night. Those are some of the great recommendations, but AI is definitely helping that. But you do have to be careful, Louie. You have to be careful not only about your tone, but what are you relying on for information? And for example, with this, we'll use this IRS response.
Right.
I needed publication. I want more technical code. I want you to give me more technical information about what is required for the documentation of meals. And I have to double check what publication it gives me. So I take that publication, I got to put it into the Google, and I got to go to the IRS site, and I got to look up that publication
Okay.
on the IRS site and make sure that information's matching. And that's where we can get in trouble, Louie.
Right.
Think about staff. So Nicole, who works for me, Nicole's wonderful, but if she's using ChatGPT to give advice, I'm nervous about that. So we talk about it. We're like, hey, ChatGPT doesn't have all the facts. They're just helping you develop information, but you can't be like quoting IRS publications without clearing it with me. I'm, that type of thing. So there are some warnings. You got to be careful.
Right. So we're on the same page, basically rewriting tone, taking information or research that we've done,
right,
putting it through the system is fine. Once you're using it as a research tool or an analysis tool, third-party checking is a must at the present time. And I would agree 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's good. It's good to know, because I think there is a lot of uses there, but don't get lazy, I guess is the best way to put it. Right, Don?
Yes.
Use it, but don't be lazy. Don't think it does all your work for you. You just, also my job is done. I just put it in there and I don't have to do any work. That's not the case. It's an enhancement tool, right? So I think that's great. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about one of the things that seems to be struggling now. And you hit it on the head with social media. I think COVID had a lot to do with it. Yeah. The kindness, I think the isolation and coming back out of that, you're right. People wanted to, all I noticed from the past is people were nicer before COVID. After COVID, we're getting back, but it's not the same, I guess is the best way. And one of the things is staffing, right?
Yeah.
Is how do you square that now? Because staff is also more demanding than they were from pre-COVID. I got to be honest with you. I do a lot of hiring for some of my CPA organizations that I mentor and train. And the staffing requirements are completely different. The needs, the things that they want now, and the owners are going, man, they sure want a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your input to the owner of how they should approach this?
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, for people who built large firms who have 20, 30, 40 people, and now everybody wants to be remote. Now that they were remote, they liked it. It was good. I could do my laundry in between reconciliations or tax returns. And, I have a little bit of flexibility that I never had before. And I don't have somebody watching over my back every moment. But then you also have that lack of camaraderie between people. And, some employers are demanding they come in a couple days a week or 3 days a week or whatever, that type of thing. And you're right. The expectations are very different. I know I'll just tell you what we do is my whole thing is I only have 2 staff. I was up to 11 at one point. I must have been terrible at being a leader, but it was awful. So 11 people, no bueno for Brolin. So we went down to 2. So myself and 2 others, and they work remote. And you know when they work, Louie? When they need to. If you have stuff you need to do, I'm expecting you to get your work done. Am I watching your hours? I don't even want them to clock hours. Well, Tracy does because she won't let me put her on salary. But it's like, get your work done, right? Take vacations. I don't care. You don't need to put in for vacation time. With 11 people, you had to be more strict, and it was before COVID. And now I'm like, Nicole, take whatever days off you want. Please take days off. Take days off. Like Tracy, you want to go on cruises. She's my administrative assistant, executive assistant, whatever you want to call her. She's phenomenal.
Sure.
But I embrace the needs of what my staff needs, which is I flat out asked them, how much money do you want to make? The assistant doesn't care. She's like, I don't do this because I need money. I do it because I love it, literally, which is crazy. And Nicole, she has a family. She's got more needs than Tracy does. So I'm like, how much money do you want to make? She told me, I said, okay, that's what you're getting paid then. You need a raise. Make sure you say something, because I value you for what you offer to me. You're wonderful with the clients. You get your work done. Do you make mistakes? Of course. We all do. I make a ton of them. Usually by the time my foot hits the floor out of the bed, I've probably made 10. That's just how it is. But I've embraced it. But, for some, I understand maybe the firms are bigger and you can't. But I'll tell you what, happy staff equal happy clients, period.
Well, it sounds like you found a dream team where one doesn't care how much she's getting paid, and the other one basically can get paid whatever she wants. I don't know if that's the formula for a lot of for the people
Yeah.
that are listening to this show, but the part that I got was happy staff makes happy clients. I think that part I got.
Yep.
So so yeah, so so you agree that the staffing issues and the needs are different now,
Oh,
basically, right?
100%. They're, they've got, during COVID, of course, parents that were working now have kids running around behind them and they're trying to get their work done and distracted. And thank goodness for schools, and they go to school and then they can get their work done or whatever.
Right,
But I definitely think that people just are operating different. Yes, it's been brutal. It won't ever be the same. It couldn't possibly be the same. I think
right,
people's opinions about COVID itself, people's opinions on what people should and shouldn't be doing and the restrictions, and you can't do this, and a lot more pressure about what do you mean I have to wear a mask, or I don't want to wear a mask, or I do want to wear a mask and some people aren't wearing. And I think it was a really hard socially. And I think that broke something just tremendously in the way we treat each other during COVID. I think there were a lot of opinions and a lot of negative that came out of that. And I watched practitioners, I don't even want to do this anymore. We're
yeah,
overwhelmed. Like, clients are calling me and they're desperate because they're going to go out of business. And I got to be there for them to help them get a PPP loan and all this stuff. Yet I have to do my normal work that I have to get done. So I think there was a lot of pressure and it was really tough. I think it's getting better as far as the way clients look at us and, appreciation and things like that. But yeah, staffing, it's tough. Got to figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah. So basically, uh, how does being the motivator help a person attract the right staff? Like, what do you have to have? What's the leader's attitude that needs to be in place so that if you want to build like your dream team, but a lot bigger than just two,
Sure.
what are the motivator concepts that they should incorporate?
Yeah, it's certainly, obviously, everyone always says tone at the top, all of that. That is absolutely true. If
Right,
and I equate it to, as you're the owner of the company, you're the partners, and maybe there's a couple of you, maybe there's two or three partners that are a part
right,
of this business, and the three of you, like, it's like parents fighting in front of kids, right? So it's like, if the partners aren't getting along and there isn't that positive cohesion between the partners, for example, the staff is going to feel that. The staff is going to know that. So, obviously, reading books, Power of Positive Thinking. There's, all kinds of really good books out there to help set yourself up for success. But if you think people are going to want to join your firm and you're just a mean person, it's not going to last. It just is not going to last. It's going to,
right.
maybe it'll last, but you're going to see turnover. You're going to see turnover of staff. You're going to see turnover of clients. And it just, having a positive work environment, and whatever works for you. You want to have people in an office? No big deal. Cool. Every
Sure.
once in a while, let's have a coffee party and everybody get together and talk about their day and understand, hey, Susie, you just got back from having your baby. Let's have a little celebration for Susie for coming back from having a baby. Like, having personal interactions with your staff and actually care, like walking by their desk, not being, did you get that tax return done? Oh, is that Johnny? Did he have a baseball game yesterday? I think you said, how did he do? And actually then doing this one's crazy, Louie. Ready? And then when you
Right.
say, hey, how was Johnny's baseball game? Oh, really? And then they start walking away and they're not even looking at the guy or the lady,
Yeah. Yeah.
listening to the story about the
I've seen
kid.
that. Yes, yes, yes.
It's not
That's
hard.
another good example is how was Johnny's baseball game, and then do you have that file ready for me,
Right.
or or is there's a mistake here after you've talked to them about their kid, right, or whatever, right? I agree with you that you just can't. It has to be real. It has to
It
be
has to be
engaging and
real.
real. Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can't, like, it's like, okay, this one's crazy too, Louie. Treat others as you would like to be treated.
I've never
Okay.
heard of that one before.
I know it's a weird one. I just came up
It's
with it
weird.
just
Yeah, I
now.
think you just made it. Then yeah, it was brand new.
But you think, and sometimes if we think about firms that have been around for a while, or partners who are
Yeah.
the older people like me,
Yeah.
we're old people. And so,
Well,
I guess, I don't know, my hairdresser
w-
tells me I'm
w-
not old. 53. I guess I'm not. I don't get the discounts yet at the restaurant. So I guess I'm not too old yet, but
you're not old enough yet. No,
not
you're still
yet.
a youngin. Yeah, you're
I'm
still a
getting
youngin.
there. So you think about how, as you're, treating other people. So if you're a practitioner, been around for 25 or 30 years, and maybe even you were at a big firm or you were at a small firm, it
Yep.
doesn't matter. And the way you were trained when you were young, and I say young meaning new to the profession,
Yes.
not age
Yep.
wise, but young to the
Right.
profession. And you were maybe like I was, and I actually don't mind this learning style because I was born in the 80s. I attribute it to that. But I would do a tax return and I would hand it into my partner to review it. And I'd get back the next day and it was on my desk with an F on it. Figure it out. Figure it out yourself. No indication of where the errors were, but go find the errors, right? That
Oh,
level of
interesting.
teaching,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that was fine with me. Doing that to someone today, maybe they had poor experiences in school where they would get, an F on their paper or whatever, and it triggered them. And so now you've got some staff in there that have different teaching styles, and you have maybe more seasoned professionals who that's how they were treated, just by like, that's wrong. The next time you get 2 more things wrong, you're getting a pay decrease or you're going on suspension. I don't even know what the consequence would be. But
Yeah.
sometimes having those learning styles and teaching and thinking about those young, again, new to the profession professionals, we have to be a little more careful. We need to bring them along like kid gloves, like helping them. They don't know what they're doing. So being patient and being kind. Those are the things that firm leaders today, on whether you like it or not. How about that, Louie? Whether you like it or not, this is what it's going to need for us to grow in the profession and become successful.
Well, you hit something, culture change, because you're absolutely right. When I was a junior, way back in the day, just like you,
A
old
couple
old
days
times.
ago.
Yeah. And I got stuff back. It wasn't hand holding at all. It was the old attitude was sink or swim. Get a file, look at last year's file, and learn. And if you didn't do a good job, figure it out, right? And if
Yep.
it took you till overtime, whatever, but you had to basically do it. And if you didn't learn fast enough, you would know. Let's put it
Yep.
that way, right?
Right.
And we can't do that now. It's a different environment with our staff, and rightfully so. I think I would have been more appreciative if I had that kindness that we're trying to talk
Yeah.
about today
Mm-hmm.
back then. It's just the culture back then allowed them to do that. And I think and to me this is part of the give and take on the work, given the fact that our staff now or professionals coming in want more,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
I think a happy medium is great. But I do agree with you. It starts from the top, and the kindness thing is good. Talk about win, the WIN. Talk
Yeah.
about that in your motive, because you had win for like there's about 8 or 9 different wins you're talking about, and I'd
Yeah.
love you to go through those if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, really, the key at the end of the day, the win philosophy is all about what's important now. I find
Right.
that every person, I'm sorry, if you say you're not one of these people, might want to look in the mirror for a hot second, but I think we
Fair enough.
all have a level of anxiety over what's next, what's happening
Right.
later today, what's happening tomorrow, what's happening the next day, what we
Absolutely.
worry about things. And so the philosophy of what's important now is everyone can participate in that philosophy because it's actually caring about what you're doing at that moment and leaving garbage. I always say just leaving garbage outside the door, leave it out there. You're coming into, let's say you're coming into work and you've
Right.
got something that happened the night before at home, and learning the win philosophy to have that, okay, be where my feet are. I don't need to worry about what's happening later today, or I don't need to worry about what's happening later, but let's just deal with what we're dealing with right now and right here. And so the win philosophy is all around just trying to stay where your feet are. And then what's really great about the win philosophy is what's important now. And I may have left that garbage outside the door. The great part is you have a choice to pick it up when you leave. When you go outside, you pick up the garbage or you leave it there and forget about it. Those are great choices and philosophies that thinking about how am I going to deal and manage with what I'm up against at this moment, and then decide if I want to pick up the garbage after I'm done with this moment. And that's what's
Right.
great. I have a little etch a sketch, and Louie, I think you know what an etch a sketch is, do you?
Yes, I do. I used to own one, by the way, so I
I
had
was
one when I
so
was a kid.
bad at it, Louie. It's like it's
Well,
a lot of coordination.
you could erase. That's the whole point about the Etch a Sketch, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You get the
just
little mini
erase.
ones, the little mini
Yeah.
Etch a Sketch. You can get on that thing and be like, "Oh my god, this is so terrible," and then you can erase it, and then you're like, "Oh, that's
Right.
gone." And that's
Yeah.
what life is. Life is an Etch a Sketch. It's whether you decide that you want to shake that thing and start over. It's never too late to do that. You can do it at any time, and you can forget about whatever was on that thing, because after 15 minutes, you're gonna even forget what it was that you were so worked up about. And
Well,
so
I love that. I love what, but how do you do that? Because I am a creature of an accounting firm, an accounting background, and we're always worried about the future. There's always another deadline that we're worried about. So how do we stay in what's important now? Like, how do you do that? Like,
well,
what techniques can we use?
yeah, techniques, some different things. Having something like tangible that you can say, all right, I don't know, I'll use the salt right here. Like
Okay,
having this is a silly example, but having a focus point, like
right.
taking the time to step back and go, okay, the salt isn't a great example, but I'm looking at the salt and I'm like, okay, there's rain on
By
that.
the way, can I ask you why you have a salt shaker at your desk? Just out of curiosity,
Yeah, like my mom makes the most amazing potato salad.
right?
You gotta load it with salt.
Okay.
I know I got some hardened arteries in here going on, but
Uh,
when Grandma Pat makes makes potato salad, you better
right,
have the
right.
salt handy, and she better put extra eggs in it. That's a whole nother thing.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, you're fine. Got to have the salt. But being able to refocus your mind on something
Right.
else other than whatever it is you're worrying about. Now, I am somebody who is a worrier. I worry, and I've had to
Mhm.
train myself to say, okay, I know you're worried about the next extension deadline, whatever it is. It could be even something much bigger than that. It could be something much less than that. What you're worried about, and you're going, okay, how is this going to go? I need to bring myself back to focus. So I have a win board that I'll look at. Okay, yep, I remember what's important now. I need to think about that. It's up over there.
Right.
What's important now? What are you worried about? That focus on this, and then in a little ways compartmentalize those anxieties and those worries. You have to train yourself to do it. It just doesn't all of a sudden Louie's like, I talked to Brolin. Okay, I don't worry anymore. That's not a thing,
Really?
right?
That's not a thing? Oh, that's
I
too
wish
bad.
if it
That's
was,
too
I'd be a bazillionaire right now.
bad.
And I would be doing this with
Right.
you on a big boat down in Noank, Connecticut, chilling with you
Oh,
while I'm on the boat. So
fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
it'll be so fun. So just thinking about how you can shift your mind, and it's all, Louie, you know this. Our bodies are here. Our bodies don't determine our success. It's everything that's up here. We're either
Yeah.
successful because of this or we're torn apart because of this. And I've had to really work hard on that because I care about so many people. I care about so many things that I have to learn that, okay, Brolin, slow the roll. And if you know me, I'm a million miles an hour all the time. I'm 100 or I'm zero. So I've had to learn to, hey, bring it down. You're
Right.
worrying about something, that talking it through with someone. So my husband, I'm like, I'm worried about this. What do you think? Should I be even worried about this? Having someone that you feel like you can talk to that can give you like, all right, yeah, this is ridiculous. Or you know what? If you're worried, I'll be worried with you. We'll be worried together if it's something we should worry about.
Well,
But having those mentors or sounding boards that you can have. And another really important thing too is surround yourself with the right people. So surrounding yourself with people who are, I'll say, positive. You know, there's people who are not always so positive, but they're still people you want to hang around with. But I know I've been around situations where I'm like, oh my goodness, this is such a I'll say toxic because that's the big word these days. Toxic
sure.
environment. I need to remove myself for a couple weeks from that because it's bringing me down. So recognizing where you're in a situation or you're being around some people that are just not bringing the best out in you, and shifting away from that, give it a break, see if it's even worth going back to, just like the garbage example outside the door. But we have to do that and we have to work through it. And you've got to figure that out for yourself. What's going to work for you to help you bring that anxiety, stress, and all that down? Everybody's got to
Well, that's
figure that
great. Honestly, a win board, I thought that was great. Like a win. So instead of doing an agenda list, do what's important now list. I think that's great, right? If it's
Well,
not
I
on
do
the
that.
win board,
Yeah.
it doesn't go, right? I thought that was great. The sounding board, having people around you. that are, and also the positive, not necessarily yes people, but positive
Correct.
people. They can. So those two are great. The toxic thing. So Don, what happened if when you look around you and you're the toxic? How does that work?
Yeah, that's
How
totally
does
true.
that
And you
work?
know what? I just have to say, like, my whole thing is always, if I'm, please tell me, because that would never be something I would want to be to people.
Right, right.
Honestly, Louie, some people, like, you're either gonna love me or you're not. Like, there's no real middle. Oh, she's cool. It's not that. It's you either, nah, she's not for me, or yup, I'm all in. But at the same time, like, sometimes it is about self-reflection, Louie.
Right.
Self-reflection to say, all right, how did I react in that situation? Was that the most positive? And guess what? Here's the great thing about that. If you weren't acting positively, or you were a toxic person, or you were talking like that, what's really fun is you can apologize. You can go to
Right.
someone and say, hey, Louie, we were at dinner that night and you made a comment, and then I was kind of like trashing on your comment, and that was not
Yeah.
cool, dude. I want to apologize to you because I wasn't being a good person. And I've had to do that. I've had to do that with people. I misread the situation. I didn't have all the information I needed to make a decision on this. And I want to apologize to you. That's on me. I take responsibility. You can accept my apology or you can deny my apology, and that's up to you. So we're on the same page. I apologize. I don't think we apologize enough either. I think that's another thing that people struggle with.
I was just going to say, I think the term now is never apologize, right? Always be
Yeah.
right, which I'm on your side of the fence. I think if you can self-reflect and know that you made a mistake, I think it's tougher to apologize than not to.
Yep. Because you got to live
And
with it.
really apologize, not, you know, half-heartedly. Just go all
Correct.
in.
Well,
That's
it's
a
the give
great
to get.
idea.
It's
Yeah,
exactly the same. It's the give to, it's the give to give. Give the apology to give the apology. Don't expect anything in return.
right.
You may get
Right.
it. You might get something good in return, but you might not. But
True.
you want to give that apology to give the apology to free yourself from knowing I'll say the guilt that you had about the way you reacted to
Yeah.
someone or something. And it's okay to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. So you're saying if you happen to be the toxic person at that time, be able to forgive yourself and apologize. I think that's great. The mindset thing is, Don, you hit it right on the head. You got to change your mindset first before you can do anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the motivator thing, like you said, I agree with you. It's not like taking a pill. You got to exercise it. You got to keep doing it. Self reflection is fantastic. I know
Yep.
we haven't talked about actual systems
Accounting.
and stuff, but honestly, what we have talked about is mental health here. I think your book, whether it doesn't say mental health wellness on your
Right.
book, but you should probably put that in your book, to be quite honest,
Oh, there's a new book
because
coming, Louie.
oh, there is. Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. That's good. So you heard it here, folks. There's a new book coming.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
coming.
the reason why I said that, because being a positive motivator and being a positive influence does impact your mental well-being, right? And
Right.
I think that's a big thing in today's environment. Don't you agree? Right now, particularly in our profession, with burnout, the resignation issue, the fact that people don't even want to become CPAs anymore. You know?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's something, and I do, as we talked earlier about COVID. COVID was a big factor in that. I think maybe what it did was just tip it over the top. So it was kind of like it was starting to spill a little bit, and
Right,
COVID
right.
just emptied the bucket. The bucket emptied, every guts, bodies everywhere, like awful,
Jeez.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, that's. I mean, I think so many practitioners were just in so much pain and suffering, and understanding that, especially like you're saying, the great resignation, with a lot of the seasoned professionals who are like, I
yeah.
cannot do this anymore. And it really, to me, is attributed to mental health. It's attributed to the way people are treating each other. It's attributed to the way people put pressure on themselves, that they don't find that release. And the mindset of, you know what, I don't have to be in this office 80 hours a week during tax season because that's what we've always done. What we've always done we got to be done with that. That's got to be gone. And
I
really
agree.
looking out, right? We need to look out for ourselves, which we aren't good at. We're always trying to help other people. With
That's true.
I would say the majority of accounting professionals are people pleasers, and
Yes.
they want to help people. All they care about is helping someone else, but they don't help themselves. And that's where we've been struggling, I think. If more
Yeah.
people would, in fact, say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to set some boundaries. That's a really big word, boundaries, right? I'm going to set some boundaries on what I want my firm to look like. And that's one of the things I really try to encourage people, because I needed my firm to look a certain way for me. And when I make changes now over the last couple of years, I've been making some pretty significant changes where I'm just
Right.
saying, hey, client, I am changing my business model. This is how we're billing moving forward. We're going to put you on a subscription, and it's an annual, basically spreading the fees out, and we're going to take care of you. We're going to get your work done. That wasn't about what they wanted. Usually people are like, well, I do my tax return and then they pay me. So, okay, so I have to do the work and then they're going to pay me. Well, I don't want to chase money. I don't want to deal with accounts receivable. So this year I said, no, clients, I'm changing my business model. If you want me to prepare your tax return, you need to sign your engagement letter and pay up front. That gives your skin in the game. My skin's in the game. I know how many clients are coming back. I know my capacity. I can make decisions on new clients. It was my mindset that changed. It isn't what the client necessarily wants, but it's what I needed to do for my firm, and I stood tall with it.
Yeah. And by the way, the subscription or menu-based model, I agree with it. I've been doing it for the past 5 years with my customers and making them change, particularly their personal tax return model, right? And thanks to Ron, when his book came out, Ron Baker,
I love Ron Baker.
he's finally made it legitimate for us to talk about it openly, right? Prior
Yeah.
to that, we had to do it in closed doors, but now I can talk about it openly. So that's
Make sure
great.
there's no microphones on or no one's listening.
Yeah, that's what we had to do in the past. But thanks to Ron, we can talk about
Yeah.
subscription modeling for the accounting industry openly now. So that's fantastic. Don, we could go on and on, but it
I
was
got all day,
fantastic.
bud.
We'll have to do another show then, basically.
Absolutely.
Don, it was great talking to you. If our guests want to get to see you or talk to you, how can they do that? And tell them where they can get that book.
Yeah, sure. So I have my website is simple, dawnbrolin.com, and that's, you can get the book there. You can go on Amazon and get the book. One of the key things that I found, I just started this it was actually a year ago. I started
Right.
something called Dawn's Dugout. And I started that dugout because we would have a podcast, or we would be on a webinar, or we'd be in an in-person learning session or whatever. And it was like, okay, Louie and I had a great time. That was awesome. And then it's over. And it ends, the
Right.
communication ends. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a dugout. It happens once a month. You have to go to the website to check the dates in case there's conferences or other conflicts, holidays on a Monday, one Monday a
Sure.
month. You can just come and let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about processes. Let's talk about staffing, whatever it is. Not that I have all the answers. Other people come and we just kind of sit, and it's a 1 hour, I do it twice a day, and that one day, and we just talk about stuff. So welcome to, there. I also have free resources up there under dawnbrolin.com. You can, have at my price list for my tax returns and when people come to me, all those kind of things. And, I just want to help the accounting community have
Fantastic.
a better firm. That's my goal.
Well, thanks, Don. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Louie. Always good to talk to you.
Same here. Don, thank you for joining us today. And to you, our valued viewers, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. And please don't forget to send us your comments and feedback below. Until next time, stay hydrated, always be curious, and above all, be well.